Hey,
Hey,
live
it's
streaming
live now.
people. I'm gonna
Woohoo.
socialize this too.
Hello, live streamers.
Wherever you are.
Look.
I thought
Yeah.
you should have like your phone in another window with your artificial background being your home, and I'll go, get over here, yoink, and pull you
Yeah.
into frame.
Yeah.
Boy, that virtual reality is getting better all the time.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence right here.
I can
That's
see
right.
the strings and stuff though, so you can't fool me.
Did you see the Silver Surfer that was hanging from the ceiling?
Yes.
My brain went, I can see the wires.
That's-
I went to a place called Comic X that had all sorts of great paraphernalia, full scale mock-ups of like Wonder Woman and
Vader.
a bust of they had Darth Vader and his sister was in there.
Oh God.
What?
Yes, Chewbacca was standing next to Elevator.
Okay, show's over, folks.
Because on this show, the topic is bad dad humor, apparently.
Agreed.
Goodness.
That is like a 40-year-old joke if you missed it. Yeah.
Uh,
Spoiler alert, be
I'm-
danged.
I'm still
No, I
trying to
didn't
miss
hear
it.
it. I didn't miss it, but I didn't hear it before. So.
You did.
I didn't
Really?
hear it either. That's
You've
actually new to me
never heard
too.
the Darth Vader elevator thing?
No, I have not.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Got one on both of you.
Yeah.
I think we just lost our subscriber.
Yeah, I was gonna say, look, how do we get into negative numbers? I don't understand how that works.
Oops, I went to the Technorama page. I meant to go to the Topic is Trek page. Yeah, the people who are just listening to the podcast and missed that whole thing.
Good.
Oh, I can bring it back if you want.
No.
Just act surprised again.
Oh, I will be.
Okay, I shared the live stream.
I shared and I shared.
Then I Sunny Bonoed. But
Oh, babe.
okay. You doing the top of the show? What you're gonna say when you come in, or are we really winging it?
I can do the intro because intros. This is, I guess the question is, if we're trying to get this out tomorrow, because I'm putting in, for Sunday, but it's kind of up to, yeah.
No, I'm
That'll
just
work.
agreeing with you. Yeah.
Okay, all right, and I'll try to get some stuff in there to post for the episode. So
Craig's here for another 16 hours. He's got nothing else.
Yeah. What else am I gonna do?
and what's it? It's one of them words I don't. How do you?
Hey,
spell
should we
the
share?
word?
Should we share the screen that he's working on?
No, please don't.
Here's how we're making the show.
Because
Message.
you say, how many documents and programs can you possibly have open at once? And still, exactly, Eric, exactly. All right, I think I'm as set as I'm going to be.
All right, let's do it.
All right, I'll give you the count in.
Engage.
Actually, I don't count in anymore. I just wave my finger at you.
Well.
Okay. Keep quiet, Craig.
This is the top. Okay, we'll start over again. I was trying to.
All that suspense. We take a week off, and this is what happens.
This is the comedy forecast for.
Let me make this bigger.
Right.
Here.
Let's try this again.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 158 for Sunday, May 12th, 2024. Coming up in this episode, we wing it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're gonna wing it. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. Legally Blonde Notepad. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before.
Yeah.
If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it sooner or later, because on this show, the topic is Trek. Engage already. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another thrill-packed edition of The Topic is Trek. It's couple of very special circumstances this evening. One of them will be a pleasant surprise. The other one will be a surprise, I guess, more than anything else. Let me get that slide down here for those of you who are watching.
The pleasant surprise is you've been in a coma for 12 months and you woke up and this is what you get.
That was the pleasant surprise. Okay, well,
You have one extra subscriber. you did nothing.
we'll go with that. And of course, as a co-host on The Topic is Trek, there have to be other hosts. So beaming in from parts kind of known this time, I guess, is with the hip new catchphrase that all the kids will be talking about is Mr. Craig Stepp.
I'm making this up as I go.
I think it's very appropriate, but I'm not sure it's going to last as the catchphrase for, well, hopefully it won't.
I'll give you a bonus. I love it when a plan comes together.
There we go. There we go.
You definitely used that one before.
I know. Yes, I had to pull that one out of mothballs.
And
I
if
think I've used about every catchphrase known to man.
No.
I got to start making
No.
some up.
as if it seems like there's no delay in the subspace chatter ether out there, it's because, well, wherever Craig is beaming him from, Chuck is there with him. Hello, Chuck
He's on
Tomasi.
Phoenix 4. The
Yeah.
planet Phoenix 4. How's that?
Ah,
Yeah, that's right.
that's hot. I mean, literally, that's hot. So,
It is hot.
Surface of the sun. It's a star. It's actually a star.
oh, well, we've been off for a couple of weeks, and I know that lots been happening. You just had a big presentation the other day, I believe, Chuck.
We did. We had our big work conference in Las Vegas,
Yep.
and I co-emceed and produced and directed a keynote on Thursday. It was the most produced production I've ever done, right down to how many seconds do you wait after transitioning from speaker to demo screen on this one particular piece. That was everybody executed really well. It was a lot of fun. It went really well. Craig and I just finished watching it because when you're on stage and you're wearing the mic and you're talking to somebody, you really can't hear them all that
Right.
well without an in-ear monitor
Yep.
because all the audio is projected at the audience and maybe bouncing off the back wall. it was
The delay.
it was a tight script, but
Yeah.
we got her done. And I
Yeah, I
call
think
it
we've all seen things where somebody's on stage taking questions, and the audience can hear everything fine,
right.
but the person on the stage cannot, hear what somebody else on the stage is saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly. I was
Yeah.
sitting 3 feet away from our chief technology officer, and I'd ask him a question, which was, pre-scripted, and then he would freeform it. And I was supposed to inject other questions, but I couldn't hear what he was
Ah,
saying.
Right.
Like, I'm going with standard question number 2. Who was involved with that decision?
Yeah.
And hope you didn't already say it.
Yeah. Now,
Well,
while we were in Vegas, I was on an archaeology expedition, and I went looking for the Star Trek Experience, and I couldn't find a shred of
No,
evidence.
it was, yeah, no.
well,
I went,
Those that are watching at
Hey,
home will
I'm-
also notice that Craig and I are both wearing red shirts by coincidence.
yeah,
Bad
not a good
idea.
sign. Not a
We're
good
so-
sign.
we're doomed.
Well, this is going to be a very special episode. And we're not going to have the more you know come after this, but very special episode of the show because I've been a little down for the count for a bit. And obviously, Chuck and Craig have been very busy with what they're doing. So we really don't have any formal show notes this time. I'm going to try to get some stuff together. And if you're listening afterwards, hopefully, when you go to the topicastrek.com
Oh, here,
Or-
wait. There.
for the show notes, I will have a bunch of links in there for things, the things we talked about and so forth. But other than that, we are just doing this really, 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 really old school to do an episode. So in order to begin, some things don't change, however, and that is I need to ask Charlie, and Charlie was very nice the last episode because it wasn't Charlie, it was Mirror Charlie.
think he was
Charlie's
high.
really nice. So let's see who will respond when I say, Charlie, is it okay to go ahead with subspace chatter?
You don't need all that subspace chatter.
Ah, he's back.
Oh, this is like being back in the driver's seat.
I think last time's Charlie actually found the dispensary on the Enterprise.
Well, hopefully soon he'll be back again because
Yes.
it's so much better when Mirror Charlie is here.
He's beamed down to Cannabis 3.
All right, so the one story we're going to cover before we get to the 3 episodes that we're going to be talking about, and hopefully my voice holds out for this allergy season. That's not the news. Is
Yeah.
that we've been gone for several weeks, and of course, time marches on in the battle for Paramount Mountain. So I was digging through all the various news articles, reading them in order, trying to figure out what the heck has been going on while we've been on hiatus for 3 weeks, if you will. So I'm going to cover that as best as I can from my notes, and we'll take it from there. All right. So the first thing happened on April 26th, and that was that word came out from the Wall Street Journal that it seemed like the non-executive chair, Sherry Redstone of the Paramount Global Board, was considering replacing CEO Bob Bakish. Now, Bob Bakish, he's very familiar to us because whenever we talk about something to do with Paramount Global or a lot of times with CBS, his name will come up. He is, well, at this point, he was the CEO of Paramount Global. And he's actually a longtime veteran of the organization because he had been with Viacom since 1997 and became CEO of Paramount Global after the merger between Paramount and Viacom way back in 2016. And so that, and by the way, that reunification was spurred by Sherry Redstone. We talked about that at the time when it was happening, that she was the one really pushing to have Viacom and Paramount get back together again, the way they were before they got broken up in the first place. Well, at this point, on April 27th, when that came out, it was that the negotiations were still going on with Skydance, who are the people that want to purchase Sherry Redstone's company. And then because they are essentially the primary stockholder in Paramount, then they've turned around and put together Skydance and Paramount in a deal. So that was their thing. But as the conversations were going on, it became more and more clear that there wasn't going to be a place for Bob Bakish in the new order of things. Somebody else was going to be in charge. Somebody else was going to be their second. So the handwriting was becoming on the wall here about this one. And apparently there'd been a falling out of sorts between Bob Bakish and Sherry Redstone. So that didn't help things any. Ironically, Bakish was tapped by Redstone in 2016 to help bring order back to the company after it descended into public legal brawling amongst shareholders and a battle for control between Redstone and former Viacom CEO Philippe Dorman. So he's brought in, well, he was already in the company, but he's basically, you're going to be point man. I'm trying to smooth all this stuff out. Great. It's all smoothed out. Shareholders are happy. Great, great. Okay. Now think about selling the company. Yeah, you're out. What?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Because on Monday, April 29th, he was out.
Hey, that's where the sad trumpet comes in. Wah, wah, wah.
Right.
Although he's agreed to stay on through the end of October just to help with the transition, because taking his place, at least in the interim, are going to be 3 people in a newly formed office of the CEO. That's right. There'll be 3
CEOs
people instead of 1 person running Paramount Global.
Oh yeah,
3 CPO. No, 3 CEOs.
Yeah, that's a Star Wars.
Wrong show.
that never goes well.
Well, it's really not that well. Doesn't happen that often. Sometimes you'll hear about 2, a joint CEO.
Yeah, who had that? Oh well, Google had 2 at one point. I was trying to think of another company that's happened before. Oh well,
But it has indeed happened.
Yeah.
So in this case, we're going to have 3 people. Now, George Cheeks will now be the president and CEO of CBS and chief content officer of news and sports for Paramount Plus. Okay. Next person is Chris McCarthy, who'll be the president and CEO of Showtime /MTV Entertainment and Paramount Media Networks. And then the third person is, this is the name you want to remember for our concerns, is Brian Robbins, who will be the president and CEO of Paramount Pictures and Nickelodeon, as well as chief content officer of movies and TV for kids and family for Paramount Plus.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So that's that. He's our temporary new dad at this point, really.
New
Your
dad.
The change was announced at the Paramount Global first quarter earnings call. The call lasted a grand total of 10 minutes.
What?
10 minutes.
And they didn't take questions, which is always a good sign when you don't
Yeah.
take questions at,
Never heard an earnings call go that fast.
yeah. So after the call, shares of Paramount stock were down by about 7%. Now, side note here, just so you know how Paramount is doing in the first quarter, speaking of quarters, the Super Bowl broadcast, which they had, boosted Paramount Global's first quarter, stabilizing advertising revenue in its TV operations, and streaming added 3 million more subscribers and cut costs by more than 40%. But I've got a feeling some of those cost savings weren't just, oh, we clipped a coupon. People lost their jobs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of that happened right after the Super Bowl, actually. Right after they got this money, then not nice to know you. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Which again goes to this fact about the shows that have not been announced for Star Trek
Yeah.
at this point, because got to spread that stuff out at this point. All right. So also on the same day as that earnings call, Deadline.com reported on details of what seemed to be Skydance Redbird's best and final offer for control of Paramount. It would include a sweetened $3 billion cash injection, which is up at least $1 billion over its previous office.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would allow Paramount to have cash so that they could get a good rating from the various agencies out there and not be like a junk
Right.
bond type of situation for Paramount. The deal also included an updated premium offer for premium percent for non-voting Class B shareholders in the deal. Now, when we say that Sherry Redstone owns, or the company owns the majority of stock in Paramount, they really own the majority of the voting stock, which is Class A.
Right.
Class B stock, which there's a lot of, doesn't get a vote on anything. So that's why even if they didn't own a single share of Class B stock, they would still have a seat on the board and be able to call the shots as Sherry is doing. All right, let's see. So one of the reasons why there was a better deal in there for Class B stockholders is because they're feeling left out in the cold with all this stuff going on, and they're getting antsy, and they think that the deal is just going to be all about Redstone making a lot of money. So this is kind of like, well, look, see, you guys are getting a little something here with it. All right, now we're up to Thursday, April 30th. And this is a related story because it's important to what's happening with Paramount Global. Paramount and Charter Communications agreed to extend their talks on a deal to renew the license, which will prevent Paramount networks like CBS, Comedy Central, and MTV from going dark on Charter cable systems. And Charter is a significant customer for Paramount. Charter has been focusing on cutting its affiliate fees for Paramount channels and potentially dropping the number of networks it carries. But so if they do that, though, one of the problems is, and imagine this is all going on while you're trying to sell the company.
Yeah.
You've fired your CEO. You have 3 people who, according to various reports, may or may not get along with each other.
Oh, that's wonderful.
In charge.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also battling to make sure that your shows stay on cable. But when they strike this new deal, as of the last thing that I got, they hadn't actually struck a deal yet, but they were working on it. But if it scaled back, pardon me, if it is scaled back, then other cable companies get to say, hey, they got away with not having all your stuff. We want to get away without having all your stuff.
Right.
So that's something to watch as well, because less exposure, less channels, not really great for Paramount Global if that happens. We worked our way all the way up to May 1st. And
One
days
day.
ahead of the
Yeah,
end
one
of
day
the
later.
Skydance exclusive negotiations window, Sony Pictures and private equity giant Apollo Global Management, there's one for you, submitted a non-binding offer to Paramount Global, offering to take Paramount private with an all-cash buyout offer of $26 billion. And that's a $4 billion premium over the company's current $22 billion estimated value.
Okay. Yep.
Now,
yep.
it was confusing to me at first because I'm not a financial guy and I don't play one on TV,
Right.
because, all right, they had a deal before, they had an offer out there before, which was essentially the same amount of money. But in order to do that, I believe what they were doing is they were saying, we will give you X amount of money, but we will also take on the debt. This
Wow.
is saying, we're just going to give you a whole lot of cash up front for this.
I thought somebody else gave them a higher bid than 26. I thought that I heard a number that was higher. Than
That might be Byron Allen, who I found
Yes.
some interviews with Byron, but I couldn't find the article with what
thought it
his
was-
latest offer was. As a matter of fact, when I found a video, he didn't want to get into the very specific details about his offer on the table, probably because it's still on the table.
Sure.
By the way, the show is not sponsored by Duncan.
No,
As you take your drinks.
but Carlos. Anyway,
Yeah, Colin, that's right. Yep.
all right. Where are we now? We are.
I think we got a comment.
Shares,
Let's see. We got a comment here from Jared who says, offered to take them private with a buyout cash offer. Things that can happen to corporations and strippers.
Oh my. Oh my.
Wow.
Not just hot in Phoenix. Anyway. Okay. Now, where I'm trying to find my scattered notes here.
We should probably preview our comments before we put them on the screen next time.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So the tag team buyout bid comes as Paramount Global is evaluating this last and final offer from Skydance
Mhm.
To merge Paramount with Skydance, as we've talked about before. Now, this is the Skydance deal is the one that is preferred by Sherry Redstone. One of the aspects of it is that it keeps the company together.
Right.
If Sony and Apollo, so we'll cut here on some of this stuff. If Sony and Apollo buy it, there are regulatory issues that have to be dealt with, and there are plans to sell off a lot of the things in the portfolio, if you will. Now, one of the problems is that Sony is a foreign-owned company,
Mhm.
and the rules are you can't own American television stations. So those are going to go right away. And let's talk about spinning off a lot of other assets at the same time. An article that I didn't get a chance to delve into too much, whether it's a leak, whether it's a planned leak, whether it's somebody involved with the negotiations, but they were kind of running down, here's a lot of the stuff that's going to happen if Sony Apollo goes through. And it's not pretty for what we're talking about. All right. So that happened. There was another thing in here that I thought would be, so we talked about the fact that if this deal went through, it could cause problems. And I've been covering this story for quite a while, as you guys know. Well,
Yep.
if they were to go with the Sony Apollo deal, that's going to trigger a bunch of alarm bells with the government. And the example, actually, this is an example that Byron Allen gave in the video I was watching. So I looked up the numbers on this. Back in 2020, Paramount Global wanted to sell off Simon & Schuster.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked to Penguin Random House, and they agreed to buy them for $2.2 billion. So that announcement was made in November of 2020.
Right.
The deal got a lot of flags on it. And a year later, almost to the day, a year later, the sale was blocked. So instead of selling it to Penguin for $2.2 billion, they eventually sold it to a global investment firm for $1.52 billion. So they were down 30% from what they were going to get before. And this is one of the things that can happen if this deal goes through. And it's one of the reasons that Sherry Redstone is giving as to why she doesn't want to do this.
Right.
She doesn't want to do it mainly because she doesn't want to break the company back up again. But the feeling that, well, we could approve that one and be back here a year from now,
Mm-hmm.
trying to deal with it all over again. That pretty much brings us up to date at this point, because as far as I can tell, the board has authorized a look into the Sony Apollo deal. But even though the exclusive negotiations are done between Paramount and Skydance, they're still talking to them. Now, whether they're talking and David Ellison is listening anymore, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because apparently they'd gotten to a pretty good place on this deal, but they couldn't, get it finished. And Paramount had the option to say, okay, we know the 30 days exclusive is up, but we are extending it. And they didn't. So the other option, besides Byron Allen's, which I wish I had the numbers on that one, but he is also has a bid with a bunch of backers, much like these other companies, is that Paramount decides to just go it alone, just keep on trucking.
Yeah.
And one of the things they're talking about is this revived idea of having a joint streaming service with Peacock in this case.
Oh yeah, I did see
Oh,
that pop up too.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it's got some pluses and it's got some minuses. The quick minus is that Comcast, which only has 34 million subscribers compared to the 71 million that Paramount Plus has, they would want to be in charge. They would want to be in control. So,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently Paramount Plus attracts more men, and Peacock attracts more women to its service.
That's the
So you
point
now
of Peacock.
got
Yeah.
both of those.
That's what
Yes.
peacocks do.
Indeed. So you've got both of those things covered.
Yeah.
The content, is kind of equivalent as far as movie catalogs, because you have Universal and you have Paramount for those things. So they have a lot going for them. Plus, Paramount really doesn't have a lot in the way of sports. And the Peacock service they do WWE, and they're going to be the place that if you want to, stream the Olympics, that's the exclusive that they have, is that they're going to be the ones covering the Olympics.
Right.
So there is a lot going for that. It's interesting to note, however, that I was watching the news the other day. I couldn't find the article about this, which I was surprised, on my flag stuff for Paramount
Right.
Global. But Max and Disney Plus have gone into a joint deal.
Yes.
So even though Paramount kicked around the idea first, I don't know whether they're going to spur them on to do this because this indicates the next round of consolidation or what's going on here. Because you just feel the Terminator that got exploded and all the metal is like coming back together again to form like giant organizations that just cover everything.
Yeah.
So we don't know where things are going to go. We don't know if Skydance still is interested. We don't know what's happening with, but we know article that explains what's going on with the Byron Allen one because he's really keeping his close to the vest.
I think he wants to relaunch Real People.
Oh, okay. Or what was the show he
No.
produced a show that I would always see at the gym that was Funny You Should Ask. And he was one of the comedians that was on it. They would, if a host ask a question, it's kind of almost like Hollywood Squares.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that's enough about Byron Allen.
Yeah.
The topic is Byron Allen.
That's right.
And with that said, we don't have time to cover other stories. Not only does this take a long time, but we have 3 episodes to discover.
That's right.
To talk about and discover with Discovery. So I'm going to say, Charlie.
Time.
No, I'm going to say, Charlie. Goodbye.
I want to stay.
Well,
I want mirror Charlie back.
don't we all? Well, speaking of mirrors,
Nice accidental segue.
yes, with an appropriate sound effect if we've got one.
Sure.
There you go.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
We are just going to go old school and say the episode is mirrors. It was episode number 5, I believe. And we're just going to get right into this one. We join this one when we find out that the Discovery has gotten to the location of the next clue.
Right.
And there's nothing there. So I don't know. Did anybody have wormhole on their bingo card for the season of?
Wait.
No.
Let me check. No. Did not.
So not only is it a wormhole, but it has an aperture that's opening and closing and opening and closing. And they figured that the clue is on the other side.
But it's not just a regular wormhole because
No.
wormholes will go from one point in our universe to another. And this one goes into interdimensional space.
Right. So it somehow Stamets is able to just like conclude.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens.
He turns on the filter. He goes,
Oh.
look, if we look in this other spectrum, we can see this thing oscillating.
Yeah.
That would be nasty to run into if you didn't know it was there.
I thought it was funny. It looked like he was about to do a PowerPoint presentation on the bridge.
Yeah,
All right, everybody.
him and Tilly.
Yeah.
Sails are up and to the right.
So they're gonna go through because they have to find the clue and
Well, the Discovery's too big to go
right.
through.
So they have to go through, but the ship can't go through. The opening is too small, so they have to send a shuttle in. And just like classic Trek, of course, it's gonna be the captain that goes through,
Yeah.
which doesn't thrill Rayner at all. He's feeling like, it's dangerous and you should blah blah blah. And she's like, I don't think it's a good
I
plan.
can see at Starfleet somebody's going through the logs. They go, why do we make regulations like that? They just ignore them and go in anyway. The captain.
Prime directive schmerective.
Yeah.
So he wants to go in her stead or send a security team. And she says, no security team, because if we send that, this is going to negate Book trying to,
Yeah.
work with them.
They get all defensive, which they
But-
are already.
Yeah. To me, I thought it was good for her to figure out, though, that it really wasn't so much it's about that, but more a case of, I don't want to be in charge of this crew because I don't really know them. And then just, he seems really reluctant to take that responsibility. Not that he's been a captain. He's obviously, but it's a ship he's not familiar with. It's a crew he knows facts about.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had
But
those
the-
awesome one-on-ones with the team.
Yeah, as long
right.
as it's like 20 words. That really is kind of what the problem was. But, Burnham says, I trust you. I know you can do it. Of course he does, but I know you can do it. And they go through.
Bit of a bumpy ride.
Yeah. So, Burnham and Book go through. And when they get to the other side, there's a bunch of debris there.
That's
Now,
Locke and Mull's ship. It's like, what happened to them?
Yeah.
so apparently they got, because this aperture, the reason it keeps opening and closing is because it's reacting to some matter antimatter that's just making it oscillate back and forth. And they say there was probably something residual from the burn. So I guess it was a stable wormhole before that because the directions said where it was. So the second stable wormhole. Take that, Deep Space Nine.
Right.
And they find a surprise waiting for them on the other side. Not Maul and Locke's ship. They kind of expected to find that. No, they find the ISS Enterprise.
Now this is what we saw hinted in that sizzle reel, whatever
At the beginning of the
teaser for
season, yeah.
Discovery.
Mhm.
Everybody's like, okay, pretty much sure it has to be an Enterprise of some sort, but we didn't get a good look at the hull.
Yeah, I mean, I was holding out for it to be the Defiant just one more time, have that
Yeah.
Defiant show up.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it made sense because, hey, look, we can use all the same sets.
Yeah.
And
There's
this was filmed between
Paramount saving
seasons.
money.
Yeah, this was filmed between seasons of Strange New World. So, hey,
Yeah.
don't let it go to waste.
But it didn't need to be the Enterprise.
No, that's true. It could have been the Defiant, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Really?
Hey, could you imagine the awkwardness of the Strange New World's crew comes to work and what are you guys doing here?
Everything's all destroyed.
Yeah.
Pike thinks,
Hey, what did y'all do?
what'd you do to my ship?
Yeah.
This crossover sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
The hull is painted out the I and they just put a U.
Yeah.
Now it's the USS Enterprise.
Yeah.
We had some
Scratch
dots
it.
out there working, but they're not doing very good today.
All right. Well, I've done a lot of talking. Why don't you guys talk a bit about
They
the
get aboard
episode?
the ship and they're kind of cruising around and it look more like a homeless shelter in places. Yeah, there's odd people sleeping in what used to be the transporter bay.
Oh yeah.
And Burnham picks up this little pendant or medallion or something, and then takes a bit of a pin off of her comm badge
Mhm.
and sticks it to her. And that one kind of threw me for a while. We'll come back to that in a second.
They also discover at that point that the crew, well, before then they discovered that the ship was
Abandoned,
abandoned, and
which is a
Burnham
last
says, well,
resort in the mirror universe for the Terran
yeah,
Empire.
that
which is
they
odd.
wouldn't do that to a ship that was just this badly damaged. So
Well, I guess technically it was still in a piece. It was functional to some
Yeah.
degree.
well,
Right.
after 800 years, if it's still the lights are still flashing, I guess you got something going. That's good. That's good filaments
Yeah.
or whatever they're using as well.
Those lithium-ion batteries of the future are great.
Yeah.
But down in the transporter room, they find out that these were people trying to escape from the mirror universe. That now I think this is the same way it goes down on Deep Space Nine. That what happens is that the Emperor was killed when they tried to initiate reforms within the Empire. And I can't recall the episode of Deep Space Nine where it's being laid out whether Spock rose to be Emperor because he had the device.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have been the person because it was somebody trying to lead change. And that just didn't go over very well. Although clearly what happened in Deep Space Nine, it was enough to destabilize the Empire enough for the Empire to crumble.
Maybe he was in charge for a little while, enough to get things started.
Yeah, he said, "Here, you take this device now."
Yeah.
And then he was gone. But we also find out that the refugees were aided by a certain Kelpian.
Yep.
Yeah, mirror
Super
action
Saru.
screw.
Super
Action
Saru.
Suru. That's what it was.
Action,
Action
yeah.
Suru. In any
Saru.
universe.
Yep. I did. Well, I'm sorry. Everybody noticed too that Burnham was mentioning Spock.
Yeah, she said, "Oh,
That's
that was
my-
my brother's station."
After not mentioning him at all when they were at the battle with Control.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Well, finally remember.
They make their way to, what was it, the medical bay?
Yeah.
And they spot what appears to be 6 or so Locks and 6 or so Mauls. And they went, uh-oh, holograms. So they have to find the holo emitter and fire their way in. So first, shoot the holo emitter, which they did a terrible job of aiming for,
Yeah.
but they were also being fired upon. So I guess that was fair. They knocked that out, and the real Locke and Maul, I'm trying to say this without messing up their names every time, run off, and this was some of the worst shooting I've ever seen because nobody could hit the broadside of a barn.
Oh, it was just like Star Wars.
There's some yelling back and forth, and we can see that Locke has the next artifact with the clue attached. Like, ooh, cool. I didn't realize until we were watching the Ready Room this afternoon that the clues are either on the piece, the clues for the next piece are on the piece they find. Like it'll be scratched on there with coordinates, or that little vial of water is, I don't know, taped, staple, hot glued to the piece that Locke is holding. So,
and it had the scratches on it.
Yeah, we didn't see those until it was being analyzed later. Though.
Right. Yeah.
So there have apparently one jump ahead of them, and there's discussions like, you've got no way out of here. We've got a shuttle. Let's work together. We'll get you out of here. And of course, they don't go for that.
No.
And in as the shooting inspires, they inspires, wrong word, but keep going. They raised shields that separated.
Well, they shot a panel outside the room.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. And then these medical force fields go up. So Locke and Burnham are trapped on one side, while Book and Maul are trapped basically outside. And they say, oh, the main controls for this are on the bridge. Let's go there. No way. I'm not going, the argument back and forth, but they agree. Okay, I'll work with you for a few seconds while we get this going.
Right.
So Book and Maul head up to the bridge, and Burnham and Locke are basically, aiming phasers at each other inside of this force field.
And can I point out that it must be a rule, if you have a weapon in the 32nd century, it has to have lights on it. Lots and lots of lights.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So Book, we forgot to mention that when Book and Burnham were on the bridge, he somehow hacked through the sensor logs or something to gain access to some crucial information they needed to find out where more stuff was. But I thought that was...
Well, yeah, I thought it was a nice callback, because what they were doing was they were using to locate three things. They find three things, and this has to be Maul, Locke, and the clue, because as we know from being in the Mirror Universe on Discovery, it's a different quantum signature. So she just configures things to find a different quantum signature.
That's what she was doing with her little thing from the badge, right? She was setting up a fake.
Right, because she said, go ahead and scan it, and you'll see it's not.
We found the next clue. Go ahead and scan it. It's genuine.
That's right.
So she needed to use something. Okay, I didn't catch that the first time, but the second time it became a little clearer. Like, what was she doing? But they never scanned it.
No, well,
it was all pew pew pew.
Well, you probably have to put your gun down to scan. So
yeah, I thought Burnham was putting something in there so they could actually track her, because she would take that little locket because it was
Right.
around with the homeless stuff and everything.
Then it would be Maul and Lockett.
See what I got to deal with?
Yeah, I know.
So, I thought that that's what they were going with at first. At least Michael was. Something like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the audience was expected to realize what was going on when she put it
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was
But-
going to be a tracking thing too. It's like, haha, now we can track you, just like you sent us a nice time bug gift for Christmas.
Yeah, I figured when she was trying to sell it as being the actual clue,
Right.
that she would be able to open it up and there was something inside of it, just even that it's not just a locket. I think that she was, but that's not what she was trying. She was trying to have something in there from our universe
yeah.
that would scan as if, oh yeah, that's not from here. The locket's from here, but not the thing inside.
Right.
So back to the bridge with Book and Maul trying to get the force fields down.
Is it just me, or if I was trying to work and fix the thing to get somebody out and somebody kept talking to me about my dad and the thing, and it's like,
Right.
I think Maul showed more patience than she really should have.
Yeah.
She's shown a lot of restraint in this show.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yep.
So she sort of went a little rogue, and it reminded me of the scenes where you just rip the wires out and hope for the best. And of course, yeah, the force fields go down, but it also blows the shuttle that they used to escape off into La La Land. And now we're headed towards the wormhole.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing. It's like, well, okay, so you got some momentum out of whatever happened. Obviously, you've got things pushing against each other, and so the shuttle goes one way and the ship goes the other way. But man, directly towards the aperture.
Well, we needed a countdown because you can't have, and we see this again in the third episode we'll talk about, you can't have a good, stressful moment and close call.
Yeah, you gotta raise the
without
stakes.
The counter going down to 3, 2, 1. Hope for the best.
Yeah, you got to raise the stakes. So yeah, that's
They've never been higher.
right.
Except until the next week.
Yeah.
Tune in next week when we have another countdown that we'll beat.
I
But
think
in the ensuing, after the force fields go down, Locke and Burnham get into a pew 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 fight
Fisticuff.
and fisticuffs, and he tumbles and he's got a knife or some kind of
yeah. Well, I think he picked up one of the surgical instruments that would be in the ISS sickbay.
Yeah.
right, and accidentally stabs himself. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen, which is his reaction, which I thought
Yeah.
was very appropriate. At the same time, shortly after, Maul and Book come in, and Maul assumes the worst. What did you do to him? Like Burnham stabbed him, but nobody ever says, oh, sorry, honey, I fell on my knife.
Yeah.
There's never any clearing of that assumption.
That's right.
That's true. That's true. What we're getting throughout the episode as well, though, is the backstory. Right? We're getting
Oh, right.
Who-
Yes, totally forgot about that. How did you get into
how
this
Maul and
situation?
Locke met,
Yep.
and their relation, how that developed, and then we get to see. Well, obviously, at this point, for half a season, we've seen it, but we get to see what a Breen looks like underneath that, or as I like to
Yeah.
refer to it, the Star Wars,
I'm
Princess
glad
Leia.
someone else said that because
Oh,
I thought
everybody-
the same thing.
I mean, the new ones
You're
don't
not
have
alone,
It was
that
not
same
as
look.
much, but
Look,
the
you're
older
not
ones
alone.
with the snout,
Yeah. Looks
she's
like
holding a thermolytic device.
yeah, it looks like what Princess Leia was dressed up as.
Right, exactly.
And we get to find out more about the bounty,
The Aragog.
right? Because it turns out that Locke's uncle not only likes boots really well shined,
Yeah.
but he is very high up, very, very high up.
Primarch.
He's a Primarch in the Breen. It's not the, what does their, I forget what theirs is called.
It's not an emperor, but it's something
No,
equivalent.
but I mean the Breen, like the Borg Collective, the
Imperial.
Imperium.
okay, which is kind of a oh really? That's interesting.
Yeah, we've learned a lot more about the Breen than we have ever in this just one episode.
We've only seen them a few times in that, like in Deep Space Nine, a little bit, and
Yeah, but every time we saw them in Deep Space Nine, it was kind of like there was no universal translator of it. We
Well,
hear their voice as their
and-
voice.
One of your assumptions was, and I think the internet as well, is that Locke is Breen. He's a green Breen.
Green
Yep.
Breen.
And when he takes off his helmet, or when he, whatever that thing is, what you call it,
Retracts it.
Yeah.
kind of recede, he has a gelatinous
Jelly face.
face.
Yep.
So that is the face of the Breen now, but they also have a more ancient face that's underneath it, which is what we see Locke looks like. So that is the second face of the Breen. And that's what Maul slowly convinces Locke to show
He congeals.
his true self. And he says, well, that's
And-
not all of me. You know, you've seen my face before. He says, well, this is part of you too. And that echoes back a little bit later
Yeah.
in the episode.
I thought he looked like one of those clear goldfish that you see at the fish store, at the
Not quite.
pet store.
Bit more gelatinous than that. Maybe
Yeah.
more like a jellyfish.
I was thinking more like a lime Jello mold.
Oh.
The helmet is a
Well,
jelly.
there's always room for Breen. I mean, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get discovered that they're having this little
Trace.
affair.
Yeah.
And they get
They were
discovered
sort of
by-
behind a cloaking shield of something, which would be
Right.
really handy.
which I thought was odd because they could see him coming and he didn't even try to put his helmet back on.
Right.
They brought down the cloak.
He didn't go. He wasn't trying to scramble to put it on.
Well,
And I
he
told
didn't
you
take
that's
it
all
off.
we're
He just,
saying.
it just
Yeah.
goes and goes back
Yeah.
on
Put
again.
the helmet up, you turn her around and go, and not a dime more.
Yeah, exactly.
It
Why
wouldn't
was
have
your
been a
helmet
problem.
off? She hit the button. Sorry.
That's what she said. But anyway, so Maul gets a good beating up over this because the uncle is no too pleased about what's going on here.
Yep.
And he tells Locke, there's only one way to
You gotta
regain your
shoot
honor
her.
with this. And as we all think to ourselves, oh, foolish man, oh, foolish Breen,
You gave him a loaded weapon.
Yeah.
and he uses it not to kill anyone.
Well, I think he killed the two guards, but he
No,
only
he
injured his uncle.
shot them in the shoulder as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So he just,
You know, that's not where their heart is.
oh,
We don't know a lot about
he-
breed
he-
physiology.
true.
he shot them in the-
I'd ask Culber, but he doesn't know either. Yeah.
Yeah. He shot them in the spleen.
Yeah.
As we learned,
So they're spleenless now.
as we learned on Rura Pente, not everybody keeps their genitals in the same place.
But we found out that it couldn't have been because we see the Primarch later. So if they're all shot in the same spot, it's something that Locke knows will incapacitate them.
Sure. I guess
But
their phasers
as-
don't have stun.
Yeah, as he's about to shoot his uncle, he says, this means an Aragon. And he goes, I know. And he
I
does it
loved
anyway.
him in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Aragon.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to go to that place there.
Or is that what the Klingons eat after their gah? Is Aragach.
Actually, every time I see Aragon, I keep thinking of that meme that, oh my God,
Ermagerd.
Yeah. That's-
Oh my.
that should have been the title of this episode.
Indeed.
Ermagerd.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay, moving on. So we
All
got
right,
our
so they
backstory.
take off and they've got a blood bounty on, well, he does anyway, but Maul, assumes as her own as well, that they have a blood
Bounty.
so I think what are we now back at where the Enterprise is trying to get out of
Right. He says,
A
"We've got
wormhole.
just a few minutes before we go sailing into the wormhole." How, so well, how did we did resolve this? Oh,
Well, what happens is that they
Burnham
use
has to
the
get a
tractor beam
signal
is still
out.
working.
Right, the tractor beam is about all that's working, and she says, "Hang on, I can fire a signal out there on the tractor beam that Raynor will be able to pick up." And
So
it
it's
was what, 3 pulses, 4 pulses?
3414.
4. 3414.
Oh yeah.
And he picks up on this, but of course he doesn't tell the audience yet.
Right.
Find
I,
that
I
out
do
later. And he
I
says,
do think it's interesting that he he knows it and he calls Stamets and Adira and everybody to the bridge.
"Yep."
And they say,
And one of
okay,
the crew
Tilly, and
members
he goes,
says, "Are we going in?" And he says, "No, they're coming out." "How do
well,
you
they
know
go,
that, sir?"
we've come up with a solution. Yeah, change of plan.
"Yeah.
Never mind all that.
Yeah.
Can you hold this portal open to fit a starship through?"
Just
Yeah.
put a pry bar in there just right.
Right.
No, they shot the pry bar. Oh no, there's a Primark that they shot. Never mind.
Yeah,
Primark. And, yes, we can fire it open. It'll be hexagonal. Why hexagonal? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that was Dr. Aaron saying, well, really, what you'd have to do
Yeah.
is this.
It had to be hexagonal to support the pressure. Yeah.
Because
Well,
we
that's
see
what I'm thinking.
hexagons in the next episode too.
I'm thinking that if you did it as hexagonal, you would have solid surfaces rather than like a circle that maybe just wouldn't hold as well.
Well, if they were using multiple, whatever it was, photon torpedoes loaded
Yeah,
with
there was I think it was
matter.
6 of them.
Yeah, if
or
there's 6, you're going to have sides to it. If you put one in the center, it would be a radius and then it would be a circle. So it made sense. It made sense.
But I was trying to check because I believe because the plan was to to take the photon torpedoes payload out and put in antimatter.
Hmm.
That's what's in a photon torpedo.
That's right.
It's an antimatter weapon.
Yep.
So maybe they just meant take out all the stuff we don't need and put in more of it.
More of it.
We loaded Spock's corpse. Does that help?
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Good.
Yeah, but it works. It works. And all of a sudden, and wow, I was amazed what great eyesight Culber has. He's looking at the same thing we are, this little
Yeah.
screen. It's hazy and there's all this stuff going on. He goes, is that the ISS Enterprise?
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Give him some credit. Come on.
I'm like, gee, wow. I guess
Maybe
we don't.
Jamal had really good eyesight.
Right. Yeah.
But they were able to make it out, of course. Lock and Maul get away.
Hey, by the way,
Oh, yes.
hey, my favorite part is when they say, catch that ship, and then Raynor goes, I got you covered. Oh,
Oops.
sorry, we're just too late.
Missed him.
Yeah. Sorry, too
Raynor,
late.
that's
Yeah.
going on your next performance review. Got to
He-
keep the story moving.
That was funny. I got you covered. Oh, sorry, don't.
Just kidding.
How did they get onto another ship? Or did they?
I would think it was the shuttle.
Okay, how did they get from the Enterprise to the shuttle?
The shuttle was a medical shuttle. So apparently
With,
everybody was abandoning ship and they didn't think, we should probably get in the shuttle too and just take that with us.
with warp capability
Right. That's the first thing I thought. Gee, that thing took off.
from
Yeah.
the TOS era. I think
Well,
somebody pulled a
I
few.
think that's what they were
strings
saying
off.
was it was a very special type of, not just your average shuttle.
Like an
Special-
ambulance kind of thing.
An
Because it was a
ambulance.
medical shuttle.
It had
Yeah.
a red light on the top of it and all that
Right.
kind of stuff.
And the red lights turned green for them. Yeah, we get it. Okay. So they get away and we go, oh crap, we got another episode to do.
Right.
We do get to hear a discussion between
Where the 3414 comes from.
right, and we find out that because Burnham was studying the culture, she knew the story of the warrior who was asking for help, and
Darmok and Jalad.
yeah, essentially,
Right.
which I thought it was nice because here you have Rayner spewing out all these essentially Earth sayings. It's nice
Yeah.
that like, oh, well, here's one of yours,
Yeah, I thought that was a nice connection moment too.
And during all of this, Tilly notices that something's up with Culber, and
Yes, she starts
They-
playing counselor.
yeah, they don't get to discuss it in the spur of the moment because things are happening. But he comes and finds her at Red's, the bar, Red's, in the ship, and he's describing. Now, did you guys catch this? He's describing the things that have happened to him, and I've watched the episode a couple times now, so this was not unintentional.
Hmm.
He says, I died, and you hear 4 notes from the search for Spock. It's like the Genesis planet
Yeah.
notes right there. I'm going, okay. They're going, yeah, we know this is like kind of a Spock thing as well, but we're going to acknowledge that with music. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I totally missed that. That's
Yeah.
good for you. Good for you.
Wow.
And he's feeling like something is happening, and he can't wrap his head around it. And he doesn't know what's going on, but he's kind of excited to see what it leads to. And as he's describing it more and more, till he calls it as, well, you're kind of sort of having a religious experience.
Yeah,
type
there's
of
not
thing.
that much. There's not much that much difference between what was it, the technical and the spiritual, or yeah.
Science.
And he says, I didn't say spiritual.
Yeah. He's had it kind of rough because wasn't he stuck in the mycelium network at that one point?
Well, that's how they got him back, because he was
Yeah.
stuck
So
in-
he was technically, dead then, and he came back. And then he's had an out of body experience with Janal. So he's had some big experiences to
It's been a rough couple of years
Yeah.
for me.
Couple
let's-
centuries.
a couple centuries. Yeah.
And we get this discussion between Book and Burnham about, well, these clues that are taken to all these different places. They're kind of like giving us sort of lessons about things, it's messages like valuing other life forms and the importance of cultural context. And they find out that the people on the ISS Enterprise did make it through the wormhole,
Oh,
and then went on to live normal lives. And one of those people joined Starfleet, and she was one of the scientists who hid the clues. So she knew that the Enterprise was there. So she went back in and hid the clue there. And then she disappeared. I mean, on the records, because that's when Janal went in and said, like, wiped out. It's all wiped out. No record of these people ever even existing.
Real Men in Black moment.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Then the weirdest thing, as far as I'm concerned, happened in this episode. We haven't seen an awful lot of Owo and Detmer. And now
Yeah.
suddenly they're in charge of taking the Enterprise back to headquarters.
At impulse power.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope they had at least a little bit of a skeleton crew with them, because those
I
two.
hope so. Well, I think they said leading the team. So
Oh, okay. I can just see Detmer, with this big school bus steering wheel.
Yeah.
Norton.
The wheels
All
on
right.
the starship go
Handles
round
like
and
a dream, Captain.
So we need to have a rating system for this episode. We've got a bunch of different things. Always room for Jello, but we've got
Jell-O molds. 1 to 10 Jello molds.
when to
Yeah,
take Jello.
there you go.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, I will start.
Mhm.
I liked the episode, but I felt like in the storyline, to have gone through the time jumps and then go directly into the mirror universe in the next episode was a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel like if the clue was like placed later, it might have been more impactful to suddenly go in there and there's like something that you didn't expect to see again, type of thing. Uh, I thought that the episode also kind of dragged in places, like annoying book on the bridge with Maul.
Yeah.
That really, why she just didn't turn around and say, "Will you?"
Shut up.
I don't know. So
Close the book.
I'm gonna give this one a 7.5. 7. I'm gonna give it a 7.
Oh,
I
seven,
I
right.
just felt like a lot was off, and it just felt it was in the wrong spot in the story. All right, which one of you guys wants to go next?
I pointed
Okay,
first.
Greg.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll go.
And I'll go.
I'll go.
All right.
I like this one. I thought we got a lot of good new information, some new canon about the Breen.
Mhm.
Good effects on that. We learned a lot there. We also had, the backstory of how they met. A lot of times when you get the villains, you don't really understand how they got villainous.
I think
Um,
at villainy. Yeah.
I was again, we were watching the Ready Room, and they were talking about, they're kind of this Bonnie and Clyde thing,
Yeah.
and a lot of the villains are driven by misdirected affections, like they're doing this out of love or vengeance for love or something like that. And I immediately thought of like Kingpin, he from the comic, the world. But there's really wasn't vengeance so much as, hey, our love has made us criminals, so now we have to find a way out of that so we can continue to be together, but
Right.
not be criminals. And finding this device, aka weapon, could be a way to do that. Again, I got a little deep into the backstory thing, but I enjoyed those two aspects. But like you, I thought there were a few dragging points about it. I'm gonna go a little higher. I'm gonna give this one an 8.
Okay.
I was about to interject. Love will keep us together.
Thanks for the earworm.
Yeah. Oh, we can't afford that, Clinton.
No,
It's
that's right. We
always
can't.
fun to have a little throwback with an old starship too.
Yeah. Um, is it my turn? I'm
Yes.
just kidding.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna give this one an 8. I know, I feel your pain.
Oh,
Clinton.
that's no, not that callback.
Not that callback. All right, so I understand where you're saying in some places it was slow and it just didn't fit right, maybe in the story arc here. But at the same time, I liked how they were trying to get back through the wormhole and catch them, and I like the tension that was made in the episode. I did like the backstory a little bit. It wasn't enough backstory, which we find out in other episodes about what's really going on. But I don't know. I kind of liked it. I don't have much more to say other than that.
Okay. Fair enough. Then we will move on to the next episode, which is Whistle Speak.
Yeah, and the 5K marathon.
Yeah, pretty much, because the clue is going to take them to a strange new world. See, they came off the Enterprise bridge, so they had to go to a strange new world.
I see.
But before they do that, as they're discussing where they've got to go and what they've got to do, we get a call to Burnham from Kovich, who he claimed that this null space was a bit dramatic, but he seems to like it there.
Yeah, he does.
I don't know.
He also seems to like legal notepads.
Yeah, since it's the
Or
name of our episode, because
stationary.
writing on a legal notepad. It's not a reproduction. It's the real
Actual
deal.
paper.
Now, am I correct in assuming that this is the first time we've seen a legal notepad in Star Trek? Period.
When I saw it, the weirdness of seeing people having a notepad and Burnham picks up a piece of paper, just I said this can't happen that often. I mean, obviously there are episodes where things happen that are flashbacks, like the one on Deep Space Nine where they're working for a publisher and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, right.
But this is a case where somebody in the 32nd century, so somebody in the future, is using a pad of paper.
And he
And
loves it.
I think maybe it is.
Yeah.
Great money-saving device in the props department.
Yes.
Oh, look, we're out of money. Just give him this legal pad.
And write it into the script.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were
Aaron,
people
you
out,
got that one?
Yeah.
I'm sure there were people out there that went, wait a minute, they're so rare. Why is he using it?
Yeah.
You know,
Sell it on eBay.
Put it in a glass case behind him.
oh, it's up to Z-Bay by now. It's the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
And we follow up again that Culber is still having some issues,
Yes.
and he's trying to work through them with his abuela, who is a program. It's kind of like a portable holodeck program, but apparently much more advanced. That
For therapy.
he said that it was using information that I'm thinking, who got that information? Who got the memory scan? Where did that come from?
Personal logs, probably. Hey, if
You
we've
really
got
mean
generative
hers?
AI, think about where we are with generative AI and carry that forward a few centuries.
Yeah, but hers, not his.
Did he not say because he was talking about the personal therapy device,
Right.
like,
Well, he said that,
yeah.
and here's another question, or another person that's just disappeared. Is he says send a message to Dr. Pollard.
Yeah,
So she's not down in sick bay.
right. Well, he even asked it to search the data bank, so there's obviously data on that person. I mean, it's 800 years in the future, so maybe I don't know what they know about people in the past. But we've
Very
seen
interesting,
Picard.
very interesting.
We've sure got his.
But it doesn't have any
I guess
answers.
at home, you don't sit there and go, personal log. I had, chicken and dumplings tonight. And, you don't really do
My
that, do you?
abuela made a mean pozole.
And she tossed it out and replicated some.
Yeah, that's right.
But this program doesn't have any answers for Culber, who's still feeling like something has changed, and he it's bothering him that something has changed, and he has no. Of course, he was very excited before, but I think he's excited, but still at the same time, it's like when it's implied that maybe he should check the body as well as the mind. He goes,
Yeah.
and of course he asks, Paul Stamets to help him with a scan of himself looking for issues. And that's not going to, scare Paul at all.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
what? Why want that?
It's okay. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's not really nothing.
Yeah.
I feel fine. Thunk.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're analyzing the clue from the previous
Right.
find. It's a vial of water. And they scan it 7 ways from Sunday, and it turns out to be a vial of water. Tough clue.
Distilled water.
Yes. So there's no impurities in it, no elements that would say, oh, well, what world has this element, or what nebula has that, component?
But it
to
has
it?
some
It's available in any grocery store on Earth.
odd
You just-
markings on it. So how did they track this to the desert world? That was
Well, they the first thing they did was that, let's see, is that where the
Well,
Yeah.
Burnham gave him some tips, what to look for. You remember she
trying to
reeled off a few things to
what
think.
happens when you have 3 episodes at once?
Yeah.
Um,
notes.
and boy, I'm trying, because I remember. So this must be the episode. Is this the episode where they? Yeah, it has to have been from the previous episode that they got that clue. And one of the things in it was the key, right. This is with the one that has the Beta Z.
No, that was the next one.
That's the next one.
The little metal card. Yeah.
Yeah, this
that's the
was
next
the
one,
water
okay.
vial.
When you have 3 episodes, you got to take better notes.
We can fill this space with Jared's trivia question. He says, my favorite Star Trek Discovery trivia question. Whose name has appeared in the opening credits the most and why? Do, do, do,
What-
do, do, do.
Sonequa Martin Green.
The answer is Sneeko Martin Green. Why? Because she's been in every opening credits as an actor, but also been double billed as producer at times.
That's right. Yeah, I noticed that
Good factor.
a couple times this year.
Thanks, Jared.
Well, I remember that it was through process of elimination because they ended up looking for a world that didn't have sufficient amounts of water, and that the scientist who hid that clue did work on Denobula, because it was Denobulan, about producing rain, but not like seeding clouds, but actually like producing
Extracting a moisture extraction device. Yeah.
Setting up a sprinkler on top of a mountain.
And they thought, well, it must be we're going to Denobula, but they didn't really have a drought, so it's not a great clue that would be the
Right.
place you'd want to go. And they discovered other places that scientists had gone, or potentially could have gone, and lo and behold, there was one that Helemno
Okay.
was a world that needed to have that, and it's a place that it would have gone. So they
Oh hell no!
Right. That's what I thought. You want to live there? Oh, hell no.
Hmm. It's very odd when they get to the planet, though, because you see this world that everything looks very, very dry, and
Except for
there's
those
one little section
hexagonals. Yeah.
that's green
Yeah,
on
very
it.
green. Yeah,
And we get to find out the reason for that. Now,
And
obviously,
hexagonals again.
yes, exactly.
All the other stations closed down.
Right.
Because
And-
nobody came by to patch their operating system.
Oil the machine.
Hey, I was wondering what kind of a plan that really was ultimately. I don't know whether it's because of the burn that nobody could just get there to maintain it. Because he has to have
pretty possible.
known
Maybe.
that at some point after 800 years, everything's not going to be working again. Well, except unless you're the lights on the Enterprise, they're working fine. But other than that, things break down.
You think the beeping from your smoke detector is annoying? How about this thing where your section of your planet shuts down?
Yeah.
Honey, the tower needs its battery changed again.
Which one is it? I
Yeah.
can't tell.
Which tower is it?
Well, unfortunately for the inhabitants of the planet, there were 5, and now only 1 is working.
This resonated with this side of paradise at
Mhm.
first. It's like, hey, we got this device that's failing. We should go down and fix it. But wait, we can't interfere with the Prime Directive, which they clearly blow out of the water later.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. And they go down in, their own garb, as opposed to what happened on this side of paradise.
Well, what do they have with them to do their work? Because they can't have traditional things. They have a retinal tricorder, and I can't take credit for
Oh,
this.
that's
And
right. The
I can't
eye,
think-
the thing with the eye.
yeah, I can't take credit for this. At least I saw somebody on X do this. I'm sure other people had the same thought. It's an eye quarter. Ha!
Take that, Apple.
Tilly did look funny when they were first using it, and one of her eyes was all lit up.
Yeah.
The eye
That's-
scan.
Because that's not obvious at all. Why is just part of your face all bright suddenly?
Yeah,
There's a twinkle in your eye. You must be attracted to these people.
yeah, right.
And Burnham is asking Tilly how things going at the academy. And she's, well, got an issue here that,
They keep bringing that up.
and she also invites Burnham to teach at the academy. So who knows what will happen with that one in the long run?
Yeah,
So we understand that the locals are a somewhat
primitive.
superstitious / religious people.
Right. And the pre-warp civilization.
Pre-warp, so we can't interfere. No Prime Directive thing going on there. And
They whistle. Their language was
yeah, they
whistling.
needed to modify a translator or something to change the whistling, which I think would be really interesting if your mouth wasn't moving in sync with the whistling.
But
Yeah.
I thought the whistles were just for
distance
long-term communication.
or long distance.
Yeah, I get the person, because I think,
It works for me. I do that
I
to my
thought-
wife all the time.
I think Tilly said, so exactly right.
Eric's is a whistle guy.
He is.
He can live on that planet.
Because she says, oh, they just speak in whistles. And I think Burnham says, "Well, no, that's
Oh, okay. Kind of like
Well,
it is.
howler monkeys.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When they get the howler monkeys, when they get together, hey Bob, what's up? You know.
You seen Jerry? Hey, Jerry!
it's the Muppets all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on right here."
Because on this show, the topic is howler monkeys.
Yeah.
They run into some locals who are on their way to what they don't refer to it as the tower. It's
The temple of some
Yeah.
thing.
yeah. So they're on the way there, and this woman is not feeling well at all. And Burnham and Tilly are able to figure out that she's ingested some of the sand, all the stuff that's outside
Yeah.
of this protected area, and she's in pretty bad shape. And they said we could get that out of her really easily, but they're not going to break the Prime Directive to do it. But it ends up not being a problem because there's
No.
actually a cure that's used. They're using like these sounding bowls
Yeah.
to cause a bunch of vibrations, which allowed the woman to expel the
In the
sand.
process, Burnham is affected and passes out.
Yeah. Good thing she
Yeah,
didn't call her badge or something.
Her contact lens falls out.
Yeah.
Her eye corner was having some issues with
That's
I
right.
got some sand in my eye. Zzz, zzz, zzz.
Yeah.
Down she goes. All right, but when she wakes up, we get to meet some of the locals. We get to meet the local priest, who's Obaz, and his daughter Riva. And Riva's all excited because she wants to, follow in her father's footsteps and do all these things. And he's kind of like, well, take it easy. We got other things to deal with right now. But Tilly and Burnham find out that by doing a race that's coming up the next day, conveniently
Have
enough.
access into the temple.
Hey, look, guys,
Yeah.
you didn't sign up for the 5K, but we'll let you in.
That's right. It's a fee though, so I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, it's a fee.
It's a late fee as well, but
Yeah.
there's a fee all right for this
Yeah.
race.
What they call it? The mother race or something? The mother.
For the name that they always assign each other names, but the mother one of those.
Yeah. The tough mother.
Yeah. So Tilly and Burnham also join in this race, but they find out from Discovery that the tower that's in this region, like all the other ones, which they discovered there were 5 of them, it's starting to fail. So suddenly they don't have just one mission to find the clue. They have another mission to try to, get the rain creation device working again.
Yeah. Hence the side of paradise reference.
I did see a big plot hole here because we already talked about the other 5 remaining towers
4.
or 4 other ones. There were
Yep.
5 in total. Why didn't Discovery go to one of the other towers once they figured that out and fix those that weren't working?
That would have been a little suspicious.
Nobody would be there.
Well,
True,
plus
they're
the
all
fact they
getting
had to go there eventually.
They could put a spacesuit on and go
We'll
over
come
there.
back, con thing. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We'll send the Cerritos. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Second contact.
It's still, even in the 32nd century, different ship.
Yeah.
Still just do
No
the second
problem. They'll be
contact.
by eventually.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Why didn't they go try and fix the ones where nobody's hanging
They
around?
have a mission to stick with. They got to keep looking for the clues and getting
Well,
puzzle pieces.
but to Craig's point as well, on that same logic, not just fix them. There's 4 other possibilities of where there might be a clue.
Yeah.
Well, they eventually solve that.
Well, once people
problem.
go, hey, it's raining over here, let's go there, then they could go to the last hour.
Anyway,
See?
so Tilly and Burnham decided to join this race, but before you join the race, you got to take a tablet or something.
A
They
dehydration
basically have
tablet.
to be really, really thirsty.
Really thirsty.
We're not talking about, like we're talking about like you're parched, you're dry,
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet run a marathon. And then along the way, there are these tempting bowls of water to tempt you with. Now, had it been beer, I would have been out at the first spot.
Yeah.
right? Because the
Sure.
idea is if you take a drink of the water, you're out of the race.
Yeah.
or the beer.
Drink these really salty pretzels. Eat
And
these really
I
salty
felt kind
pretzels
of,
and then we should have a marathon like that. I want to do that.
well, I'm wondering about the people that were out at the starting line, because how did they think they were going to compete in this race? They just had been thirsty for like 30 seconds and they're already, well, gotta go for the bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Those two people did give up pretty quick. Weenies.
And
Weenies.
you'd think they'd know what was coming.
Because everyone's there watching.
And they've done this for years.
You go, no, I'm out. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're all running in the race. They discover where the control panel is because Burnham figures out that as they're well, jogging, I guess they're not really running, but they're, in the marathon, that there's growth in an area where it's a different color than everything else. We're near the tower, but it's a mutation from leakage of radiation from the tower itself. So
Right.
they conclude that it's there, and Burnham says, okay, in the case
You go on.
isn't working out, you need to finish the race to make sure you can get inside that tower.
I'll take a
No.
drink.
I was gonna say what it was you go ahead, I'll suffer and take a drink.
Yeah,
You go
really.
ahead.
You can keep running so you don't see me do it, okay?
Yeah.
But as they're trying to fix the controls, Raynor is getting a little with Adira, because Adira keeps pulling her punches on suggestions, and maybe you can do this, and I don't know, and she's very nervous about it. And this is a fault from the previous episode where she was doing all her work like 3 times over because she felt like it was her fault that the time bug had gotten onto the Discovery previously.
Yeah, she was
Yeah,
pretty bummed on that.
we got an interesting arc going with Adira.
Right. Everybody's working through some things in this season, but she pulls it together and is able to tell Burnham how to actually fix it. And it's all set, but she said it's not really going to stay that way forever. It's going to need regular maintenance. Okay, well, that's we'll put a pin in that, and we'll talk about it later then.
Prime directive.
It was at this point that things went horribly wrong for Tilly,
She fell down.
because she's about, well, she's coming in second, right? Or was she coming in first? Originally, was
I think she was coming in first, and then the other girl fell down.
right?
Yeah.
So, and the girl who's the daughter
Riva.
falls down. I'm sorry. They're referring to her as they, so I should say they fall down. Tilly looks at the finish line, very tempting, but she just can't bring herself to do it. She goes back.
Oh, wait, you have to pick up a bowl of water for like the last 500 feet and
Yeah.
hold it in front of your face.
It's not enough that you're thirsty.
You're
as hell.
passing them along the way. You have to hold it across the finish line.
So she goes back and puts some of her water into their bowl, and they both finish the race. So this is the first time they've had 2 winners. And for some reason, the father is not really pleased that she's won. And we're thinking, why would you not be happy?
Yeah.
That's when the light bulb went on. I went, someone's getting sacrificed. Donna says, how did you see that coming?
Hey.
I said it was too easy.
Worst prize ever for a 5K.
Can I just have a medal instead? No.
First
Yeah.
you have to go run this dehydrated race with a bowl of water in front of your face. And if you win, we're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
So Tilly finds this out a little late that this is what's supposed to be
We're
going
gonna
on
wait.
because-
What?
Yeah. Sacrifice now? What's all
Yeah.
that about?
So they go into the tower. They get locked in one of the higher rooms, and they can still communicate with Discovery for a little bit
Yeah.
until the thing kind of seals up and closes up, and they're going to get all the air sucked out of the room. They're in a vacuum room, which I'm not sure how this plays into the process of weather generation, but
Right. That's what I'm thinking is like, well, that's obviously not the original intent.
right.
So what was this room for? And yeah, I guess would assume it's part of the process itself.
And then Burnham goes all Kirk and says, "The heck with the Prime Directive. I'm not letting Tilly die." So beam me into that room with her dad, who is apparently like a ceremonial whatever, and trying to convince him she doesn't have to die for this. And
Well,
takes a while to convince him.
Well, they do the reverse Ghostbusters. That's why, because he says, "Are you a god?" And she says, "No."
you should always say
Always
yes.
say yes, but
And then he says, "What does God need with a starship?"
yeah, no. God.
By the way, that room was
That's 2 Star Trek 5 references
Yeah.
in one episode, people.
Sorry.
Deal with it.
Yeah. That room was meant to work as part of the machine
Right.
because it would compress with air, and I guess it was pushing the air up, and there would be a vacuum. You know, it was pushing the water out, I guess, or
But in the
whatever it was
meantime,
doing with the machine.
Tilly can still communicate with Burnham. And she has Riva sing this childhood song to, let Dad know that she's still alive, or to prove
Well,
that
she realizes that if she can get some information that no one else should know, that she can pass that on to Burnham. And it just happens to be that it's a song. And she keeps encouraging her, anything special that your mother did for you. And well, okay, the tune is enough. Just go ahead, sing it.
Mhm.
at
Just
the
try to keep it going.
Copacabana. Oh, please don't get that song stuck in my head.
No.
And it works. The father is convinced and opens
Pulls
it
the
up.
switch.
But he then believes that, well, the rain is not going to come. He says, no. And they have a discussion about, belief in things. And he's asking, well, are there no gods? And she says, just the fact that we're here and this is here has nothing to do with that at all. Sometimes it's just technology,
Right.
and you can have beliefs that are, not connected to that. It's just that this is what this is. And actually, we need to teach you how to repair this. So you have to understand what this actually is.
Tilly discovers some markings on the wall in this vacuum chamber
Mhm.
and says, "Hang on, that one looks like the one that's scratched onto the side of the vial." Now, obviously, she saw the vial, so she would remember that. And she says, "Oh, the next clue must be in Tower 5. Who gets to Tower 5 in this sandstorm world?
Send the bots in there. They can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, send the bots in.
They can handle anything.
And why wouldn't you, like Craig said, why wouldn't you fix that one while you're there? But okay, they come home with a new
Me and my logic.
clue. Come up with a new clue and leave these people in their little rainforest zone on a dead planet.
It's a rainforest cafe. There we go.
Tip your waiter.
Yeah. So then,
Burnham ends
Well-
up kind of spilling out everything, all their secrets to this guy.
yeah. And Book and Culber have a discussion when Culber comes in and finds him playing asteroids.
That's true.
Pew, 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 pew.
But he discusses that, what he's feeling, the same thing he was talking about with Tilly, because he's still trying to figure out what's going on here. And, Book is listening, which is a nice turn things around from their previous relationship, and talking about how, well, what's the deal? Well, I don't think Paul really understands it. And that's just the way things are, The one who's going to understand it the best is you.
Yep. Right.
And then they get to talk about the relationship between Book and Burnham. And Burnham in the last episode had told Book that she ran into him in
One of the time jumps.
the and she says it was nice. We were
happy.
We were happy then.
Yeah.
So you start to get a little bit of this, because Book says, well, let's deal with one crisis at a time, type of thing. So there's things moving on that front, as we kind of suspected there would be.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right, we're running very long here, so let's try to get through
Skip
the
through the last one.
dramatic episode last. That's what happens. You don't have the show notes. La 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 la, which is Eriga.
Wait, we're gonna rate this?
Oh, we got to rate that one. That's right. Oh, we got to pause a minute. What how on 1 to 10? What?
Vials.
Bowls of water.
Balls.
Balls of
Let's
boy.
tell 'em. All right,
Yeah.
so Craig, you start this time because we went the other way.
Yeah. I didn't really this one I didn't like as much as some of the others only because um it seemed a little flat. They were throwing the Prime Directive out way too easy. Which I was like,
You
there's
wanted
no
him to
com-
kill Tilly?
No, of course not. Of course not. But I just felt like that they were throwing the Prime Directive out too early or too easy. The writers, not. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I'm gonna give this probably a 6.5 bowls of water.
Half full, half empty. Who knows?
Yeah.
What
Just
about
half full.
you, Chuck?
I'm gonna go along with that as well. I thought it was a little drawn out and a little flat. Callbacks to the Side of Paradise. There was something another episode earlier when we were discussing that. I don't recall at the moment, but it was. I know we needed to get the clue, and this one was not my favorite of the whole season. So I'm gonna be a little kinder than Craig and go with 7.
Yeah, this is a tough call for me because we, for 4 seasons plus, have said do some, do standalones. And
Yes,
really, this was a standalone episode,
that's true. Yep.
right? So you have a little story, you have a crisis, you fix the thing, you have to work through this whole idea of, breaking the Prime Directive and what the consequences are of letting a civilization know that, hey, this is not what this is. And even um, the priest says, well, people have tried to stop the sacrifices before and it didn't really go all that well. So this is going to be a really hard slog to do this. So
Yeah.
they're leaving kind of, it's like a Kirk type of thing where it's like, okay, that sucks to be you, but here
Yeah.
you go.
I guess to be you.
Gotta go now. Goodbye.
That's a direct quote from Kirk.
Yes. I'm going to give this one I think I'm going to actually give this one a 7.5. I do think it had a lot of flaws to it. But I felt like I want to give him something for the fact that this was standalone. And I wish we'd had more of these because then this would be one of many
Yeah.
instead of one of a dozen.
Yeah. I will say this. There was a couple of things I did like just to point out. At first, I was excited when they were coming up with a race and when they mentioned the whistling, which really played in no part of the story. It was only a brief moment. But I was like,
it was out of the episode. So
yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? And then, it was kind of.
Yeah. So I was looking forward to the setup, and none of that was set up, and everything else is, like I said, kind of flat. So,
well, they didn't have it at the very beginning. Yeah, because you hear at the very beginning of the episode the calls going back and forth about the people traveling. I mean, not just on the ship, but when they get down to the planet and those people that are trying to get to the tower and all these conversations going on back and forth.
They didn't play it into anything. They could have not. They could have been grunting, for all we know.
Well, I think I like the fact that that they made the effort to say things are different here. You don't make assumptions about X, Y, and Z or something to make that culture unique.
I'm sorry. Did you hear what Chuck said?
No.
Lord X is going to come up with a culture that communicates through farts.
Oh my!
Oh,
That sounds like
I can
something
totally
very
see that
short track,
happening.
actually.
Totally see that happening.
All right, let's move along.
All right, on to our last episode, which is the aforementioned Eriga.
Oh my God!
Ermagerd.
Ermagerd.
Do I have one for Eriga? I don't think I have one for
Fourth slide.
But so this one is kind of a culmination of a lot of things that have been going on in
Yes.
the season, because we get to find out what are the consequences of, having an Eriga placed on you, and what is really so important about Locke.
Yes.
Yes, we finally get that reveal.
All right, I'm
And
gonna go ahead and
we
rate
get
this one.
Short
Uh,
short version. Locke and Mull have been picked up by the USS, not the Farragut. What was the name of the ship?
Oh, I didn't write that down. I know it's the name of a member of the crew who had passed away. So it was a
Okay.
tribute name.
So they get picked up by this other ship, and the Discovery zips in and says, "We'll take it from here,"
Yep.
thinking that somehow the Breen pick up on this communication, and now they know that Discovery has Locke and Mull, and they say, "Give them back, or we're gonna blast you to smithereens."
No, to quote them, it was.
Well, let's not quote them too much because they
So they are on the way to Starfleet HQ, Johnny Pronto, and they went, well, they must have picked up on our communication. And the initial thought is, well, if we keep jumping around with the spore dry, we can stay one step ahead of them. They'll never catch us.
yeah. Well, that was Vance's plan, and Burnham
That was
goes,
Vance's plan. And Burnham goes, sooner or later, that plan's going to wear out.
Yeah.
We have to face them, so let's face them now.
You know-
he wasn't real keen on that idea because you can't negotiate with the Breen. And we
Mhm.
even they're having a round table with Tarina and Burnham and Vance and
Rayner.
Rayner. And Rayner's like a loose cannon at this table because
Yeah, it was like old
has
old
history.
Rayner was showing back up again.
Well, we learned
Why?
last episode what, or two ago.
So in this episode, we find out why.
Oh,
he was
right.
being that way.
He has to open up. It's another one of these, tell me what you know, and he doesn't want to tell him what he knows. We find out the Breen used his planet as an outpost and basically poisoned the heck out of it and polluted the heck out of it and killed a whole bunch of people who tried to rebel. And he is the only survivor of his family. So
Which-
yeah, he's got some feelings to the Breen.
Yeah, which is interesting as well because we find out that only he was saved because the Primarch who was there said, "Oh, I like I
Like
like
your
the way
fighting
you fight."
spirit. You fight like a Breen.
And I'm
Wait.
thinking to myself, and on top of everything else, he now has survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Although I
Great.
wasn't sure because they were using that in a ploy to bluff the Breen, which we'll get to in just a second. So the Dreadnought shows up at HQ. It is a massive
Oh,
ship.
extremely massive. It's bigger than
Massive
Starfleet
ship.
HQ
You
is.
You can't even see the whole thing because it kind of goes into
Yeah,
the nebula.
it was half parked. The back end was still in the galaxy next door.
Different time zone.
Yeah.
The galaxy they just go move, and they're in the next
So-
galaxy.
The Primarch and his crew beam over and say, give us these people. They show up and say, give us the people. They say, oh, well, we need 4 hours to, Trina makes up this great line about an extradition
Paperwork.
document or something. It's
Yeah.
paperwork. It's going to take us
Paperwork.
4 hours. They go, you got one.
Yeah.
Like, there's Star Trek. That's the Star Trek we know and love. She
But-
says, there, I bought you an hour.
And
And I'm
Burnham is thinking, why would the Primarch come for this? And
Yes.
why would they be willing to risk, a war with the Federation over this blood?
These two people.
Yeah.
And we're not
But she's
sure if
gotta-
they know about the device or not, which we later
Right.
find out they don't.
Well, that Vance
do.
wanted that's one of the reasons why Vance wanted the Discovery to keep jumping so that the Breen didn't find out.
Right. And so Burnham goes to Locke, who's in sick bay, and Culber decides he's not going to get any better. He's going to die. Maybe there's a slight chance because they have the ability to regenerate at low temperature. So he lowers the temperature. He puts on this really cool looking coat.
Well, they get the fridge thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
do.
Oh, yes. They have to get a fridge out of some archive or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's like some Breen tech.
We caught this
yeah.
Breen tech.
Yeah, Culber
yeah.
did have a cool jacket though. He's the best dressed guy there on.
And he
Indeed.
seems to be doing better. Maul is in handcuffs. They don't want them separated. She's been kind of bossy around everybody, like she usually is, but that's her character. And they're trying to make a plan to escape. Like, wow, you're locked inside a force field. She's in handcuffs, and you plan to escape. This is
But
This is
Locke
pretty-
has a plan eventually.
Locke has a plan.
He's gonna
So
lock it
Burnham
down.
comes in and says, tell me why they want you. We know they want you. What is it? They won't talk. I just felt like slapping someone around, you know? It was,
Even through the force field.
right. But finally we learn Locke, not to put a pun on this, I just thought of Locke is the key. Ah, the Primarch cannot ascend
Not
with
the only key in this episode either.
right.
Yeah.
The Primarch cannot ascend unless he has Locke, because Locke is
Direct
the
descendant.
direct descendant of the Imperium Emperor, basically. So I don't know what fun that makes it, but hey, I'm not Breen. I don't know their culture and their legal system.
Well,
But
Locke doesn't like it, so it's not
Yeah.
too-
Right. It was nothing to do with it. You know,
Yeah.
he's disgusted by the fact that he has that lineage. So,
yeah.
Yep. Okay, so their plan to escape is he says, "All right, you go. I have a plan." She says, "What is it?" "You're not gonna like it."
Yeah.
So he somehow reaches around to basically the medicine cabinet and ODs on, some tetrachlorine hexafluoride.
yeah, it's a tricortisine that he had a
Because
base-
cordrazine isn't good enough for Bones to
They
have a
want-
crazy fit on Guardian of Forever.
They were giving him a steroid.
Pretty much.
well, I mean, Culber was making it up as he went along because he didn't know. He was
Didn't
You-
know.
trying to do his best to just keep him
Stabilize him.
stable any way he could.
He didn't know about the Breen physiology.
So Locke goes into convulsions. This causes a distraction. They lower the force field, and Maul does her work.
We get to find out that Culber can also handle himself in a fight.
We also
Yeah.
get to
He
see
can.
None.
Nan. Yeah, so Nan comes back because she was on the other ship. She's part of the transfer contingent, whatever it is.
Security.
Book tries to stick his nose in and go, "I can talk to her. She's like a daughter to me." And she basically says, "Get the heck out." Nicely,
Nice. I was going easy on him.
because I know what he means to you.
And by the way, that whole shooting that weapon kind of thing before, last season.
This is the second or third time, and they do it again in the show, that Maul has a weapon trained on somebody, and they yell out, "Drop that weapon.
Yeah. Just shoot.
Just
Sooner
shoot
or
it."
later, it will work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It never works. I'm getting frustrated by
say?
drop the weapon.
What'd you say? Everybody wants to fight her in close quarters.
Yes, everybody, which is where she's most lethal. You take the shot at 20 paces.
Well,
This
you
is
want to fight
ridiculous.
her person to person in close quarters, because otherwise the blinding light coming off of all of the weapons that glow all the time just it ruins your eyesight.
Yeah. So that was a bit frustrating. She starts to escape, but Burnham convinces her, "Hey, or no, Book.
Between Book and Nan,
Maul.
actually.
A Book and no. Who says?"
Yeah, because she goes. They go off in search of it because Book figured out where she was.
"You
and so
don't
the
want
two
to
of them
miss
went.
this. He needs you, and he's not doing that well." And she says, "You're lying. You're lying." But he convinces her to come back. So she's there, and much to our dismay, Locke dies.
In the presence of the Primarch.
In the presence, yeah, because they wanted to be around.
And-
They said,
yeah.
we need a Breen medic, so bring over the medic. And the Primarch says, "Me
Wait a
too.
minute.
You're
Did you
not
say
getting-
Bream over the medic?
Bring over the medic."
Read over the- read over that. Yes.
And plus about 4 other guards, so
Yeah.
there's a number of people there that says,
I was surprised they didn't start shooting right then.
if he dies, we're going to war. Well, he died, so that's not good. So there's tears. Locke dies. Then where did we go?
Then,
Well, okay. So what happens at that point is that
Maul throws out her
she
card.
throws out one big thing
Oh, right.
that they're married.
Oh, yes. We didn't know they have the secret tattoo on their wrists, or
Yeah.
scarification. It looked more
Right.
like. And he said, where he goes, I go, even in
Yeah.
death. So
Yeah, you have to take me."
take me. And they said, they'll never accept you. You must pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. This kind of thing going back and forth.
Well, I know something you don't know, man. I can
He
tell you
says,
where it
"No,
is.
you have to take me because I can take you to a weapon of such power, blah, 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 blah." And at this point, I thought everybody on the Discovery crew, their chin hit the floor. Like, "No, you can't tell them that. It's really bad."
Yeah.
So we find out her motivation for striking this deal. It's not going to change the fact that the Breen would get the weapon, which in the episode where they jump back
Yep.
and forth in time, the Breen have
They
the
got
giant weapon,
something.
and
I don't know if
they-
they had the weapon or they just blew
They
the
just
heck
they
out of
destroyed
HQ.
Starfleet though.
Yeah.
but what they find out that in the diary, because now they have the diary that Locke and Maul had, is that one of the aspects, which has been talked about before, is this might be a device that could bring somebody back from the dead. So she wants to
Yes.
basically use the Breen to get her where she needs to go so she can try to, save Locke.
Yep.
But
And-
she doesn't. I mean, Discovery has 4 of the pieces of this thing. What does she expect to do?
Well, I don't know. Somehow she knows what's happening
Okay.
because
well,
she
whatever.
knows where to go next. And their plan is to Starfleet's plan is to, okay, we're going to let her go, but we're going to track them. And Book is like losing it over
Yeah,
this.
this is wrong, Michael.
Yeah. Wait a
You know,
minute.
here's the person he's trying to save.
Mhm.
It's basically the last person that has any connection at all, even if it's tangentially to his past. And they're just going to, sure, she's probably going to die as soon as they get to where they're going and they get the weapon. But, I'm sure she's got a plan for that, about how to take care of that too. And it'll be
Well,
fine. It'll be fine.
Well, there's one thing that we kind of skipped over a little bit, and it's how not Trina and everybody were kind of playing the Breen, because Rayner had that
Yes.
background
Yes.
information on Tehran or whatever the name was
Yeah.
for the other Breen.
Oh,
Right.
I thought this was a great
Yeah, I love that because
bluff. Great bluff.
they said, well, how do you? The Breen called out the bluff, and then Rayner was like, gave all these details
Yep.
about this.
I
This other Breen,
survived because she said I fought like a.
and was
what-
explaining
why
about
don't you
her.
two go duke it out on Breen?
Yeah, she was giving them real information. They're like, oh, he must really know. They're not just lying.
Right.
And
So
he was like, ugh.
yeah. I hate her. I hate her.
So that was, I
They're
thought
really
that was
lucky
great.
that worked because they could have said, "Newsflash: she died 6 weeks
Yeah,
ago."
yeah.
Right. That's what I was thinking. It's like, how long
That
ago
was my sister, and she died. Yeah, yeah,
but she was still obviously around because this is enough to make them hold off on doing anything.
yeah.
So the other thing that was happening in this episode was deciphering that clue.
Yes.
And so apparently that clue was just like a little treasure box full of things. And it had a piece of metal with Beta Z markings on it. And they couldn't figure out, okay, that's great and all. What's that going to do with anything? Well, they by consulting with Zora, they find out that the title, the translation of that is a title of a book. And that book was by Beta Z from centuries ago,
Nobody could find it.
but it referred actually to the original, not any print of it. They'd have to find the original manuscript. Well,
Yeah.
where the heck is the manuscript? We need to consult somebody who's an expert in this type of stuff. An
And that would
expert,
be Jet.
because apparently Jet patted her resume and well, she kind of worked for a
Yeah.
guy that
That
kind
was
of
a fun trip through her resume.
Yeah.
I'm a bartender here for a little while.
And
sold
by the way,
stuff
you
over there.
haven't lived until you've experienced her Seven of
Seven of
Limes.
Limes. That's going to be a new drink on the Star Trek cruise. That's my prediction for
I
2025.
would certainly hope so.
If it's not, I'm disappointed.
I'll make one.
But she says, all right, well, if it's the manuscript, you might want to consult in this, the Eternal Gallery and Archive, which is a mouthful. We just call it, the archive.
Okay. But it moves. We didn't know that it moved about every 50 years or so.
Well, now this brings up a point that I don't know what's going on here.
Is this the same archive they used in Picard? No, that was the Daystrom Institute.
Yeah,
my
right.
bad.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I was thinking about the Seed Archive, which is where Non was before, but this is a different type of thing.
Right.
So they are still, that's great. So we've got this bit of information, but we still don't know exactly what's going on. And they're getting very frustrated about this whole thing. finally, Stamets realizes, well, wait a minute, this is Beta Z.
Maybe there's an impression.
Right. And he's looking at Book going, you're an empath. And
Book
hands it
wants
over.
to take off and be part of the action to get Maul back on track. But he
Right.
says, no, the mission must take priority. And that stops Book in his tracks.
Yeah.
And also stopped Tilly from leaving the ship. So I guess, there you go.
Yeah, Book looked a little frustrated because he knew it was
He took his
right.
jacket off and threw it down. Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Fine.
So he does this impression, and I thought his directions were pretty vague. There's a nebula.
But
Jet's directions were equally vague.
Yeah.
Where do you think this is? Oh, it's in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, that's not very big at all. It's a big problem.
Okay, we'll just rummage around for it.
Reminds me of the time that guy, the lady recognized me in Washington, D.C. from some of our videos, and she walks up, she goes, you're that guy from the internet. Like, yep, that's me.
So they are able to figure out, that they've at least got this clue. It narrows it down enough where they can come up with a destination. But in this state where Book is interacting with the key, which is what that thing was, it was a key for use in the library, he saw something else. And we see he's kind of like on a ship or something. You got red glass or something, and there's a person standing there, and he doesn't really describe that to Stamets. He just says, I experienced something else at the same time. And he's, well, what is eternity, eternal, something or other.
Yeah.
Now, here is the thing that I'm wondering if these tie together. Okay, great. There's this impression given, which should lead them to where the library is, and the library changes where it is all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, could be completely wrong, that someone is making that connection with Book through the key to say where to look for it, because otherwise it's going to be anywhere. It's not going to be specifically with the person 800 years ago said, they're probably in 800 years and 45 days is when they're going to need to know where the library is. So there has to be a reason why it could tell him where it is when it moves.
Yeah. Well, it is a library card.
Right. And the books are overdue. So there you go.
Imagine the overdue fee on that.
The books are overdue.
We just titled this show Bad Puns.
Yeah.
And where do we find out where the library is? Here's a callback for you. It's in the Badlands.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to see the caretaker eventually. No.
I wonder if there's any Marquis, kind of still kicking around there.
Yeah.
Really, really upset about the whole burn thing as well now. All right. So that was the episode in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating.
And let's see. Now we've gone back. Okay. So Chuck, you start off this
We're
one.
gonna-
I start this
Wait a
one?
minute. We're going to vote in library cards.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Library cards. I like this one. Kept the story moving along. Unfortunately, we lost our lock. So that's going to put a new wrinkle in things. What do we have? 3 more episodes?
Yes.
Okay. It's going to be interesting. Maul has given the Breen some key information, which adds an extra wrinkle to the whole thing.
Locke gave us some key information.
Yes.
Yeah.
We already used that bad pun.
I know. I'm just I'm regurgitating it.
I like this one. I'm giving it 8.5. I thought it was well done. Not a whole lot of flaws to it. So 8.5 library cards.
Okay. I think I'm going to go the same 8.5, because I felt like as it often happens on Discovery, the stuff doesn't always get spread out evenly. So I thought there was like a really lot going on in this episode.
Yeah.
So it was dramatic, but at the same time, it's like there's a lot going on in this episode. So I think that was a bit of a flaw to it. I think overall, the pacing has been better this season, but it still has some of those
Yeah.
Long
callbacks to
moments.
what
Yeah.
we've done in past seasons. So but given that, the fact that we get to have more interactions with the Breen, we get to see the Vulcans outsmarting the Breens with, well, it's better than a triple infestation.
That was a good line.
All sorts of things like that, and things were coming together. We were finding, okay, there's this piece here and this piece here, and what the plan is, and blah, blah.
Mhm.
So I thought it worked well for what it was. And what about you, Craig?
Wait, what'd you rate it? Oh, you say 8.5
8.5.
as well.
Same.
And I'm gonna do the same. I liked the episode, even though there was a lot of information dump, but I liked how Rayner had some key information to work, kind of screw with the Breen. We got what we needed to know, why Locke was a important piece to this whole Breen thing. Not just because he is a Breen, but because of what he's needed for. Yeah, there was a lot of good information in here that probably we should have heard about maybe a little bit more before this episode, kind of smooth things out, because this was a big info dump. However, I go 8.5 as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to have an episode like that, and you still have 3 more to go. And I don't think we talked about this on the last episode, but the final episode of the season, which will be the series finale, and we know that they shot more stuff, so it is not going to be an hour episode. It's going to be, they didn't say how much longer than a
Oh.
normal episode.
Okay.
So something to look forward to see how they.
And I will say too, we saw the Ready Room. I don't know if you watched it and saw the clip for next week's episode, and it
No,
looks.
I haven't. I watched that when I watched the episodes Bonnie's watching, and she's 2 episodes behind. So
Okay.
Welcome to the archive. Please keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times.
Yeah, it looked kind of interesting. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that plays out.
all right, well, we will find out.
That rates it. Hey, we apologize now for the unusual format of this show.
Yes, we'll do better. We'll do better.
And length. But part of that was we had 3 shows to cover.
Yep.
And hopefully my allergies will subside enough for me to not sound like, I'm watching you always. Anyway,
That's going to what you sound like.
Wrap it up. See if we can keep this under 2 hours.
Yeah.
my other voice. All right. I'm Clinton. You can find me at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4.com. Just released a new episode this week.
I saw it.
How time flies when you're doing other stuff.
I ignored it just like everybody else.
So stop it.
Kidding.
So check that out, because if you're going to the movies this summer, you want to hear what Danny Hillcrest has to say, and then disregarded it completely.
That's
All
right.
right, who speaks for you guys?
He won again.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do rock, paper, scissors in person.
Rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock.
You can find our Technorama podcast by searching for Technorama Podcast anywhere you find fine podcasts, or use your favorite search engine. ChuckChat.com/Technorama is where we have all of that. Craig and I do that most Sunday nights for a Wednesday release as an audio format, or you can join us live stream, much like this show, on Sundays at 8:30 Central, where we talk about tech, science, sci-fi, and all things geek. Love to have you there.
All righty. Then hit the theme, boys.
Let's see that one.
If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, X, at The Topic is Trek. Visit our Facebook page or visit thetopicistrek.com. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek, don't
Put
Put
on
on the
the
red
red
shirt.
shirt. But
Don't-
we didn't listen.
Don't dress like
show.
us.
Why are you guys wearing red? Maybe I won't have any co-hosts next episode.
Done.
Yay!
All right. We're gonna
Wow.
stop the live stream too. So thanks everybody for watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching later. Much
Thank you.
appreciated. Hope to catch you again real soon. We'll be back to our regular format very soon. Regular showtime too. Bye.